All right, well, just after 1 o'clock here, and meteorologist Dave Nussbaum here as we continue to track the latest with Cristobal. Take a look at this. This is our camera in the Gulfport, Mississippi area, hurricanetrack.com camera. And look at that. The water continues to move on in. The entire parking lot underwater right now, and that seawall is almost non-existent. So the surge continues to come in here. At least 3 foot looks like, maybe a little bit more with some of the bigger waves coming on top of it. And the surge will continue to rise. So this is just the beginning of what we're going to see across the Mississippi coastal area at this time. So be prepared for that to continue. 1 o'clock numbers just coming in. Winds are still 50, but this is what we don't like to see. Moving north now only at 5 miles per hour. So it's really close to the coast, 30 miles south-southeast of Grand Isle. So making landfall here, you do the math, in about 6 hours. So we're going to continue looking at that, moving on in. And as it does, it's spreading heavy rain. But a couple features I'm watching. Notice the rain now on the back side of it, trying to wrap around it here. A little more moisture trying to seed around the center. Kind of actually looks more like a tropical system now than it ever has. And then look at all this heavy rain over the Gulf waters here, spiraling its way toward Mobile. And guess what? That's going to the Mississippi coast and eventually the North Shore and parts of southwest Mississippi. You're going to feel the effects of that here moving forward. Forecast still looks for it to be landfall here this afternoon to the early evening hours, then tracking pretty close to the city here, maybe just off to the West Laplace area, heading over to about Hammond as we get on into about 7 o'clock tonight. Winds there around 50 miles per hour before crossing toward Natchez, Monroe area, and heading all the way further north there on into parts of the northern United States. We head into Tuesday and Wednesday as a big ridge of high pressure sits over the eastern United States. That's what's steering it with that clockwise flow right in that location, right through the heart of the middle Mississippi River Valley. But again, down here, you can see that landfall is going to occur a little later on this afternoon. Now, right now, pretty good rain coming into downtown here, but it's not been too heavy, just enough to keep things pretty soggy across the city. 79 there in Slidell, Hammond at 75, 80 here in town, and 77 degrees down in the Houma area. Look at some of these winds at Lakefront. 28 sustained, gusting to 32. Shell Beach, 32 sustained, gusting to 43. And 29 in Main Pass, the river there, gusting to about 40 miles per hour down there. A lot of dry air still wrapping around it, but notice there's not quite as much here now. There's a little more moisture coming in as that moisture field kind of expands as it moves over to or closer to land here. So that's why we do have that threat for some heavy rain to continue across the area. Big circulation with this, with these little tiny swirls. Ken Graham, the director of the Hurricane Center, and I were just talking about these. They will kind of spiral away around this big center of circulation, and as they move through, hoping to produce a little more rain. But as mentioned earlier, notice the back side of it, even south of it, starting to get a little bit of some rain out there as well, too. Visible satellite just show again that little swirl coming on in, and you can see here just before it kind of beeps out there, kind of a bad shot. There's that swirl I was talking about moving on in. Now we do have that big center here of circulation. There's the rain kind of finally getting into Baton Rouge. Off to our east though, there you see again heavier rain showers kind of working the way through parts of St. Bernard Parish near the Biloxi area back to Pensacola. But all this wind is pushing all that water in, all that flooding we saw there across the Gulfport area. That's going to continue heading on into St. Bernard, Plaquemines Parish, and look where it goes all the way into the lake. So we're going to start seeing more of that water piling up in Lake Pontchartrain, which does take it all the way, of course, over toward the Maurepas and Laplace area. Pretty good downpours coming on into the Mississippi coast. Much of the North Shore not looking too bad. Slidell, some pretty good rain coming in toward Mandeville and Lacombe area. Diamond Head, Gulfport area, some pretty good rain coming to Bay St. Louis over toward Mississippi Sound. Pretty hefty downpours as well. Metro area, some showers passing by, nothing too significant. Back down toward Des Allemands and Raceland area. Heading over toward Lutcher, a little bit of some rain for you. Laplace looking pretty good at the moment, but more rain will be coming in. And as mentioned, when that water starts backing up here, parts of Highway 51 there in Laplace, don't be surprised if they're starting to be flooded here in the next couple of hours. Light showers, nothing too bad. We can handle all this here in town. Things are looking pretty good. Down to the south, a little more rain over toward Houma, back to Thibodaux, Chauvin, Cocodrie area. But cut off Galliano looking pretty good. Port Sulphur, a little rain, but that's about it. Pilottown, Triumph, Grand Isle, not too shabby at this time. Rain totals at the airport, just over or almost 3/4 of an inch there. 100th of an inch in Macomb, almost 2 1/4 of an inch at downtown. So that's the heaviest rain so far we've seen. 4/10 of an inch in Bogalusa and just over 1/2 an inch so far in Slidell. There's the surge, 3 to 5 feet, Mississippi coastal areas, St. Bernard Parish back over to parts of Plaquemines Parish, parts of Orleans, 1 to 3 over the lake. And of course, 2 to 4 down along the coast, anywhere outside the hurricane protection zones as well too. Precision cast. Now this is what we want to, this is what I was talking about. There's the rain on the western side developing here. So we'll be watching that because remember, this has to circulate all the way around it and that's going to come back and get us. So we do have some pretty good rain. This is 3 o'clock this afternoon from the Mississippi coast to the North Shore. That kind of circulates toward Baton Rouge. There's the showers from earlier kind of circulating back around here. So by 10 o'clock tonight, all that moves around. Biloxi area, North Shore. This is where I think the heaviest rain is going to be setting up. So if you're watching on the North Shore, those rivers are going to start coming up as we get into tonight. Fortunately, they're very low, but they can handle some water. Mississippi coast, rivers over there also could be a problem as well, too. So be prepared for that. Now, while the city may not have too much going on at 10 o'clock, as we get to midnight, still the heavy rain to the north, but then we'll see more of these bands setting up. And this is what I'm watching for very closely as we head into your Monday. Where they're set up, they'll train and move over the same area. Yes, I know Cristobal is moving its way northward by 6 a.m., but these feeder bands, look at that, setting right up here. That was 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. If that happens, that's 4 hours of rain, and that could continue on into the afternoon. That would likely cause some significant street flooding and other flooding issues for us here in the city. So let's hope that doesn't happen. We don't want that to go happen, but there's been a trend of the models kind of hinting at that for tomorrow. So we're starting during the morning and continuing into the afternoon hours with that. That's one thing I'll be watching very closely tomorrow morning when I join you. Of course, on our morning show, we'll be talking about that, looking at radar very closely. Now, as we go throughout the rest of Monday, not too shabby, and things starting to improve out there, but notice the flow of the wind out of the south. So that means the water is still high in the lake, still high along the coastline, still high in the Mississippi coast as well. So there's rivers where all that rain drains into, can't drain into the lake. So because of that, they're going to stay high. And so the flooding may last Monday on into Tuesday as well. Finally, you see here as we go on into Tuesday afternoon and evening, still have that southerly flow out there. So the water can still stay pretty high. But finally, as we get on into Tuesday night, the rain comes to an end, and then Wednesday a front's going to come in. That finally will bring in some northerly winds. But 4 to 8 inches of rain, there is that bullseye I was talking about. North Shore, Mississippi coastal areas, they're back in parts of Mississippi. Maybe not quite as much in the city, not as much over toward the river parishes and bayou parishes. So we don't need to worry too much about significant flooding there, but still could have street flooding, so don't put your guard down. High risk for flooding. Look at that. This is rare that you ever see this out there, likely just with a tropical system. We have that, including New Orleans, North Shore area, back into Mississippi. That same area I was highlighting that could have that in significant rainfall totals. You can have that once again out there as well. And obviously a flash flood watch is in effect because we're going to keep an eye on that. That's what a watch means. 4 to 8 inches, not out of the question. Localized 10 inches. No, you have gotten nowhere near those numbers there on the North Shore, but that's something we'll be watching. We've already gotten over 2 inches down here in the city, so we'll keep an eye on that. Tornado threat, yeah, there's still a threat here. The greatest threat, though, I think right now is where the tornado watch is, Mississippi coast and Alabama coast for a few tornadoes, so we do need to be aware that that is a possibility across the area. So what do you need to do now? Have a plan. Know where to go. If we do have some flooding issues starting to shape up tonight and into tomorrow morning, do you have a plan to get out? Do you know where to go? Do you live by an area that really starts to flood when we get 4 to 8 inches of rain? You might want to leave now before some of the heavy rain is to go to a safer place just in case that does happen. So have all your plans ready and supplies ready as well too. And also don't forget there's masks and the wipes and everything else too that you need this time. Weather alerts, know how to get them on, of course, here on TV, your weather radio, web or cell phone. Make sure your WE alert, the wireless emergency alerts are turned on in your phone so you can get those to alert you if there's a flash flood warning or anything else, a tornado warning. And of course, latest information, of course, here on Channel 4, our website, our social media pages, my social media page, the weather teams as well. I post all kinds of stuff and doing it all morning out there. Appreciate all those who follow me. Try to get you the latest information the best I can so you have all the info that you possibly need. And if you have questions, I'll try to answer them as well too. So today, tomorrow, rough weather out there thanks to Cristobal. Now as we head on into Tuesday, the weather improves a little bit. Still some storms, 91 degrees. Wednesday, 92 with a few storms as well, but a front's coming in. Now, it's not going to cool us down. You'll see here in the afternoons, it stays in the 90s, but here's the light at the end of the tunnel. How about upper 60s to mid 60s for lows on the North Shore, lower 70s on the South Shore? Not bad at all. The humidity drops, so at least it won't be too oppressive with that humidity out there, but nonetheless, though, we're still looking at some wet weather as we go forward here over the next 24 hours or so. Another live look here at the Gulfport, Mississippi. You can see that water continues to come up out there as the surge starts moving in along the Mississippi coast.
Wow. Dave, before you step away from the wall,
Yep.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about this storm slowing down. What does that mean for us?
Well, that would just kind of prolong the rain event a little bit out there. Fortunately, this is not like a Hurricane Isaac was back in 2012. I remember working that one, and it just sat off of Grand Isle. But it was a hurricane, so it was a better organized system. Of course, September 1st was when that storm hit as well, too. So it had a little more oomph to it and also didn't have all the dry air it was battling. But this could prolong the spiraling of the rain around the area, and that's why our 4 to 8 inch rain totals, Sheba, could be more like a reality for us. So this is, a weak storm, and many of you are like, Dave, I've been through many, many worse storms. This is nothing. Yeah, I understand that. I've been through all of them with you as well, too. You have as well, Sheba. This is obviously nowhere near like a significant hurricane, so that's good news. But it's a big rainmaker. Anytime we get a storm here in early June, it's usually heavier rainmaker. Now, I don't know if you remember, because you were probably itty bitty, but back in 2001, we had Allison, which dropped her 2 feet of rain. Not saying we're getting that. I'm just saying that early June storms can drop a lot of rain across the area, and this may be one of them.
Sure. In New Orleans, folks, we don't want them to drop your guard because, of course, a lot of people have woke up this morning. They've only seen a little bit the rain moving into the afternoon. But as you showed us on that timeline, by tomorrow this time, we'll still be looking for rain. Yeah,
and I think that's where we have could be maybe a possibility of being very, very careful where these rain bands set up tomorrow, because if they set up over the same area, say right over top of the city for 4, 5, 6 hours, we could be in significant flooding trouble out here. So just be aware that that is the case. If you're in a street that's prone to flooding, just be aware that if we get 2-3 inches of rain per hour, that the pumps are not going to be able to handle that. No pump anywhere in the country can handle that, let alone ours. So just keep that in mind. That's something we'll be watching closely for tomorrow morning.
Sure. And if we look at that image of you one more time in Gulfport, Mississippi, right behind you, I mean, we're seeing those waves. We've seen wind and storm surge really be the issue in a lot of areas. It's not been a ton of rain that's caused flooding in these outlying areas.
No, it hasn't, not yet. But the Mississippi coast will get some later. You can see this guy.
Exactly what they say not to do, drive through the water.
Don't do that. And look, he's in
a Jeep.
He's in a Jeep. Yeah. Okay, he's got a 4x4.
But still.
But that's not smart.
No.
I mean, because it only takes about a foot of water to float a car. And maybe he stalled out there.
And he stopped. I mean, he went to some pretty deep water there.
Yeah, that's not smart to do at all. You can see it does go up halfway up the tires. Now, granted, this is a Jeep and it sits up higher than a car.
It does sit up high. It shows you how high that water is.
And I'm glad that raindrop is kind of blocking him out, because he's not the smartest bulb in the bunch there for sure.
The raindrop is just blurring him right from y'all's view, so this is what not to do.
Don't do this.
We've been watching the same shot for a good while now. We've actually seen the water rise here. Earlier, that trailer that's kind of all the way off to the right didn't have as much water up on the wheels, so we're definitely seeing that.
Yeah, there wasn't anything here at all.
Yeah,
but now
dry.
the entire parking lot, you can see the debris line kind of working its way all the way north there. As the raindrop kind of moves around here, we're going to see this continue, and this water is going to be higher. That seawall is practically not even doing anything right now. But Peyton says there's a little beach there, and then there's a fence line, and then there's the Gulf of Mexico just beyond there, or the Sound at least. And that's going to allow us to show you how deep that is. Talking, Peyton, what, 3 feet maybe?
Yeah, about there. It gets up probably about 3 or 4 feet.
3 or 4 feet, and we have about another foot, 2 feet to go before this is all said and done. And the problem is the southerly winds here, Sheba, are going to continue. So it's not going to be able to drain quickly.
Yeah. So many different factors that we have to watch here. Dave, thank you so much for breaking that down for some more. Guys, we're going to continue our Cristobal coverage after a quick break.